This is Michael Tucker, and you're watching the new Legends on Deck podcast with host Brian Koss and David Condi.
Buy a boy a baseball, get him outside, get his hands dirty, take a little time. Give a boy a Bible, teach him how to pray, thank the good Lord at the end of the day. Wake him up early, teach him how to work, spend his own money, show him what it's worth, yeah. He's gonna know it all, he'll slip and he'll fall, he'll pick himself up, amen. Yes sir, yes ma'am, show him how to be a man, so one of these days he can.
Sports have the power to unite us and inspire us. And for an example, we're going to take you to Cape Coral, where one disabled athlete received a warm welcome and special surprise from this team.
I like it because I get to have activities, and I like to be outside and play.
Jimmy Tillman loves playing baseball with other boys his age.
Yes, I started when I was 3 or 4, I'm pretty sure. I like to play second.
Though he learned to play the sport differently since he has a different left hand.
I was born this way, and I was born with a disease called symbiotic.
Here at the Pelican Baseball Complex, the Cal Ripken minor Mets welcome all players, regardless of differences or disabilities, to be a part of the team.
Nice to me, and they don't stare at my hand.
So Jimmy, along with CJ, who just had surgery for cerebral palsy, both took the field in the minor Mets' final game of the regular season, a battle against the Cal Ripken minor Rays for first place.
They asked me if I would play, so I said yes.
Jimmy even caught the first pitch of the game from Cape Coral's police chief, David Newland.
I was very impressed and very just to hear that anybody wants to come out and play as the other kids, and no matter what type of disability they may have, it's not a disability to them.
The minor Mets team, with its added athletes joining the roster for the big game, went on to win the game 14-10. And coach Chris Risola and the Cal Ripken team also put in extra effort at the Pelican Baseball Complex to make a mold of Jimmy's hand.
It felt it was not hard, and it was kind of wobbly.
The mold will be turned into customized sports gear for Jimmy, all part of ongoing efforts to include adaptive athletes in the Cal Ripken Baseball League and teach teammates to work together towards a greater goal.
I would like to say thank you to those, and that I am really excited about it.
He played baseball with me, and he was in the same league, and I wanted to do something that would make his life better and his name, and for people similar to him going through the same things.
And what are some of the events that are going to happen here today?
People are going to be hitting home run derby and targets and other things to win prizes and raise money and raise awareness as well.
All right, great. Thank you. Well, this event is set to start any minute now. And if you'd like to donate, we have a link for you on our Wink News app. Live in Cape Coral, Asha Patel, Wink News.
Great.
Welcome to episode 38 of the Legends on Deck podcast. I'm Brian Koss, along with co-host David Condy. One of the things that we love so much about the game of baseball is how the game brings families together. Today's guests are a great example of how fathers and sons can bond over the game of baseball. We're going to welcome Chris Risola, and he is the director or deputy district director for Babe Ruth Baseball in Southwest Florida, and the assistant commissioner for the Caribbean region. And then we also have his son, Chris Jr., and Chris is the founder of Caribbean Way Apparel. He's also a pretty good ball player, I understand. So, boys, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having us. Happy Memorial Day.
Yes, thank
Memorial
you.
Day. Early morning start, but we want to make sure we get you guys in and have a good day to talk about baseball. So I'm gonna get started quickly. And Chris Sr., if I mess this up, just kind of remind me. I just turned 50 the other day, so my brain is not the way it used to be.
Happy birthday, David.
Thank you. Back in, I don't remember if it was 2018, 2019. My buddies and I started a Babe Ruth charter in Fort Myers. And then part of that is we had a 12U team that we brought on. And since we're a single charter, we didn't have anywhere to play. Like, we didn't have a league. So single team. So I contacted different leagues and somehow I contacted Cape Coral. And we were able to get on their schedule to play games. So Chris Risola, I believe you were the president at the time.
That's correct.
Yeah. So our team played. So and then we have a passion because we're both Met fans. So we were able to connect that way, and just over the years, just continue to stay connected, became good friends through baseball with the kids. We have the same mindset of, building the game around the kids and, developing them and making sure that, they're getting everything they can out of the game. So that's kind of where our friendship grew. And since then, it's just continued to grow and grow and grow. So I appreciate you, Chris. I think, you've helped me a lot. You've connected me a lot in different ways in the game. We talk all the time, about different things going on with the local leagues and everything. So that's kind of our backstory. And I kind of always share that. Brian always says I always bring on all these guys that I know, but I mean, why wouldn't I, right? This is the way to kind of share their story because of the relationship we built together in baseball. So that's kind of our backstory. But now we're going to get into their backstory. Chris Sr., give us an idea where you started with baseball. How did it start? What's your story? You grew up, your passion of the game, and then we'll jump on with Junior, and he'll give us his story. So, Senior, let us know what's going on.
So my memory with baseball was 1985, and how I remember this is I just moved to a different city, and where I grew up. It was actually a little place called Springdale, Connecticut, and a neighbor of mine who's now my best friend my entire life, he gave me a yearbook, 1985 New York Mets yearbook. And it was kind of like, welcome to the neighborhood. And I know you're a Mets fan, but I wasn't extreme Mets fan yet. And then we had the 1986 Mets. And then I guess the love of baseball really, really took from there. But I grew up in a great place to watch baseball. I had Shea Stadium and Yankee Stadium. Now, I'm not a Yankee fan. I root for them, but I'm a Mets fan. But Yankee Stadium, if you've never been there, back in old Yankee Stadium, that place rocked. It was so loud that it vibrated my entire body as a little kid. That's how I remembered it. I also remember that I would not wear anything but Yankee stuff. If they were playing Mets, it was going to be Yankee stuff because I was afraid I was going to get beat up or something. That's kind of where I grew up, especially Yankees versus the Red Sox. I remember just cowering behind my father thinking, oh, this is going to be bad. But it just turned out to be, just great baseball, great rivalry. I just perceived it as a kid as being a little bit more dangerous than it actually was. But the place, that's what started my love, just that atmosphere. There's no such atmosphere anymore that I know in baseball like that, except the closest thing that we had just recently was a World Baseball Classic. And we were able to go. And that reminded me of old school baseball. It really brought me back. It was a great time. And we got to share it together. And that was awesome. I still think about it.
Before Junior gets started, with people, I don't know if people that didn't experience the World Baseball Classic. you know, I went to the game, and it wasn't the classic game. It was the Red Sox versus Puerto Rico, and it was the spring training game, and they rocked. I mean, the stands were singing. It didn't matter what was going on in the field. Baseball was great, but it was dancing and singing and partying. And I think in the Caribbean, when they have the Caribbean Winter Leagues, it's like that all the time. I mean, it should be a rock show. It should be fans having a party in the stands.
Well, that's what we hear. We haven't been to a Caribbean baseball team or game, but it's our understanding from what we've seen down in Miami. We watched Venezuela against the Dominican Republic, and they had instruments that I've never seen in my life. They looked like cheese graters. They were beating on things. There was groups of guys and girls just singing and dancing. And then no matter what it was, whether it was a strike or a ball, the crowd erupted, and it was deafening. Christopher told me, he's like, Dad, I couldn't go to sleep last night. It was like 5 a.m. My ears were still ringing. And it was that crazy. And then Team USA against Venezuela, that game was insane. I thought the house was going to come down when Trey Turner hit his grand slam to take the lead. So it was definitely baseball that I remember.
Cool.
So good times.
So Junior, tell us your story. Where did your love of the game start, and where are you today in the game?
So started off when I was 6 months old and I had a bat in my hands. But first thing I remember was in T-ball. I was probably 4 or 5 and I was trying to hit a home run. It felt like it was 400 feet, but it's probably like 80. But I kept growing up and I just had a lot of fun through my whole time playing. And I met a lot of friends I still talk to today. And then I started playing high school, a little more competitive. And that's probably when I started really loving the game. It was just always baseball, whatever I'm doing, whether it's playing, practicing, or just talking about baseball or playing wiffle ball or bottle cap baseball in school. It's just all baseball, everything I do now. I love it.
So I do have one question because as I coach baseball locally, and these kids, some of them don't watch the game. Do you watch the game?
Yeah, I will everyone, and then with the Mets when he's rooting for them.
We try to get as much Mets and Twins in as possible, but our schedules are really tough. I mean, I think we're at baseball 8 days a week. So, you know.
The one thing when you watch it, do you kind of like pull anything from it? Do you watch the guys and they're being, you know, strategic, the moves and everything, to kind of say, oh, that's what Dad was talking about. That's what my coach is referring to.
Yeah, one thing, well, I'm a pitcher, so I like to find a pitcher that's somewhat like me in a way and try to learn from it, see what he throws in this count or like just how he grips it or anything, just try to get from that.
And I believe you're left-handed, correct?
Yes.
Yes, that's a great. I mean, that's straight to the majors, dude. They need lefty. I think the Mets may need a lefty. We may need to get another starter out there.
Yeah, unfortunately, he was nicknamed David Wells by one of his high school pitching coach, and his high school pitching coach at the time that nicknamed him that was Johan Santana. Yeah. So the way he would come down off the mound, he was like, "That's David Wells." And at first, I'm like, man, I don't know if I like that, you know. Because you type in David Wells, the first thing that comes up is that he threw a no-hitter when he was drunk or something like that. Right. You know, he was like, no. You know, this guy's been around for a long time. He did well, but you know, that's
we know you're not crazy like David Wells. If you pitch like him, you know you're not crazy. You'll be fine.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, Wells had a long career.
Yes, he did.
A lot of played for a lot of teams too, actually. So I'm going to go to Chris Sr. first. And I want to hear about your position and your background with Babe Ruth baseball. How long have you been involved? How did you build those relationships with the Twins and the relationship between the Twins and Babe Ruth baseball? And just tell us about that partnership down there in Southwest Florida, and also, you know, what you're doing with the Caribbean side.
Okay. It started when Chris was 4. He was in T-ball, and I was a manager over at we call it the Pelican Baseball League at the time.
Okay.
And made some friends. Chris was loving baseball. We were getting out to the field, getting some exercise, practicing in the backyard. You know, the dad-son thing just gave us something to do, but we built off of it. And then there was one day, the director of the league came to me. He's passed on since, but he says, we need a president. I says, no way. And I walked away because the presidents, they take a beating, man. I felt so bad for these guys before me, and there's no way I wanted to put myself in that situation. So he came to me a couple of weeks later. He says, I need a president. He's like, would you think about it? I says, I just can't do it. I says, there's just no way. I just can't take that kind of abuse, man. I says, I just don't want it to be something where I'm going to get yelled at every day. A couple of weeks later, he's like, you're the president. I'm like, damn. So I remember talking to Christopher about it, and this was in 2016. So he was rolling in around 8 years old, coming into that season. And when I first took over, we had a tornado in our area, and it lifted up bleachers and threw them across the street, and it took some lights sideways, and we had to maneuver different fields at the time. It was kind of a cluster, but we were able to figure it out. And then we really got into what we thought should change and help kids. And my biggest thing was, no matter who you are, you're paying the same amount of money, no matter what experience you have. You don't know what's going on in that kid's life at home. They only have maybe 2 hours to be a kid. Why are we going to put them on the bench and only let them play that minimum inning? So I try to get everybody to play. And it was just a simple talk with our league coaches. But I guess human nature comes in. I want to win. I get it. There's a lot of variables, and it really didn't happen. But that was one of my biggest goals, to get all the kids to play. And then we also started something called Protect the Arm. And it was a coach that I worked with. He's a friend of mine. His name is Rob Goff. He was a coach with me in T-ball, and we kind of moved up together. And that's when we reached out to the Minnesota Twins. So I made a phone call, took a little bit to get to the right person, and they loved the idea. They actually brought in a group of 5 guys, and we met at Nevermind, a restaurant in Cape Coral here, Brian. And we sat and we talked about baseball and what our concerns were. And our concerns were, how are the kids warming up? How are they preparing themselves? How are they doing their recovery? How are they stretching? Because at this level, if a game starts at 6:30, kids are coming in at 6:25, and they're going right out to shortstop. They're going right out to pitcher, and it's a tough thing. And when I would hear a kid at 8, 9 years old complaining about their shoulder was hurting or their elbow was hurting, we needed to figure something out. And the Minnesota Twins were all over it. It was unbelievable how they stepped up. It was the head team trainer. His name was Chad Jackson. And this guy stayed in contact with me all the time. And to this day, he's a friend of mine. We were just over his house the other day. And we talk about kids and how to protect it. So that was our first interaction with the Twins in this area. From there, it led to coaches clinics, teaching how to help the coaches. And we were invited to the Minnesota Twins Stadium, where they had pitching coaches, strength trainers. They had hitting coaches. They had pitching coaches, right, David? I think you were there for a couple of them.
That was awesome.
They brought them behind the scenes, and we would learn how to do the best we can with the time that we had, and help not just the players, but the coaches, and kind of bring that along to the parents. We kind of needed everybody involved. So from there, we really grew with the Minnesota Twins, and they would come to the field and do clinics on the field for the coaches and help with the parents. I started hanging out with some of these guys, and we would go to hospitals, to the Galasanos Children's Hospitals. We would go to cancer centers and do our rounds and visit the children. We would bring them gifts. They would sign autographs and take pictures and just hang with them. That's when I really seen these guys, even though they're making $10 million a year, are just regular dudes, and they're down to earth, and they're just there to help. A lot of the guys that I was working with are really, really good. And then we started going to schools and feeding the kids that didn't have the resources like most do. We clothed some of them, and that's where our relationship came. And now, we go do some charity work, and then we go fishing. So, knowing them on that level helps a little bit too.
No, that's really cool. I mean, it's good to hear about like how the the MLB organization, the Twins, got so heavily involved down there in the community.
Mhm.
And I know it's their spring training home. So you have that effect down there, but you might hear about them doing it in Minneapolis or wherever, but it's cool that there's such a relationship between the Twins organization and local baseball down in the Fort Myers, Cape Coral area. That's great. Great
Yeah.
story.
Well, their reach went to the Bahamas. We
Yeah.
made a trip out to the Bahamas, and I asked them, I says, listen, I need some stuff. And within a couple hours, I got a phone call. Hey, meet me over here. We're going to bring you some baseballs. We're going to bring you some shirts. And I went out with a pitching coach from the Minnesota Twins, and we did a clinic. They're a great organization. So we have the Red Sox down here as well.
Right.
And I've reached out to them, and I've gotten a pet rock. That's what I got. I don't have the interaction, and I get there's funding for certain areas, and they have to go to certain things. Maybe they're stepping on the Twins' toes over here. I don't know. But as I do know, the Minnesota Twins organization has been spot on for us down here. So,
and I agree with Chris. Even with the Muscles, the Class A organization, anytime that I've reached out to them for like my league stuff, and within a heartbeat, we got we did a camp in January, and we got Gatorade, and we got water, and it was anything that they want to help. So they've integrated themselves as a community team. And it helps. Like I can't speak for the Red Sox, maybe because they don't have a minor league team other than the Gulf Coast League or Florida Complex League. But the Twins have, man, they're all over the place. You see the coaches, actually some of the pro coaches are around town, training kids around town to help them. They're out there putting themselves out there, which it really helps, to because in this area, without having a major league team really here, except for spring training wise, the kids know that, hey, we know about the Muscles, they know about what the Twins do. So I attest to that they've been great since I've been here.
Yeah,
that's really cool to hear.
So let's switch to Junior. Let's put you on the spot right
there
now.
We go.
Can you share with us a little more about your experience growing up in baseball? Okay, we talked about that, with your dad and stuff, and how you got involved. And give me an idea. When did you? I'm gonna switch it a little bit. When did you become a pitcher? Like, when did you start to love that? Because most kids pitch and play, but in the high school level, you kind of have to like pick something that you kind of stick with. When did pitching become your love?
So I started pitching probably when I was 8, just trying it out in the bullpen, because I was normally first base, or when I was 6, I played second base as a lefty. It was odd, but it was fun. And then I kept pitching, and I just had like a nice run to my fastball, which a lot of coaches seem to like. I never really understood it, but I just kept doing it. And then high school, first year as a freshman, my coach comes up and says I'm a PO. I'm like, what's that mean? I didn't know. So pitcher only. And I kept working on pitching, and I love it.
So Chris Sr., he only played Babe Ruth baseball. It was Cal Ripken, Babe Ruth. Is that all he played, or was it Little League as well?
No, it was just all Cal Ripken, Babe Ruth.
Okay. So Junior, coming up, in the minors, in the minors. Well, minors, yeah, majors, right? We also minors and majors down here.
Right.
What do you think helped you prepare to be able to pitch on the high school level? What did you do differently, maybe the other kids don't do, or maybe you picked up on that really helped you get ready for the high school level?
Well, when I had these connections with Luis Ariz and Jorge Polanco, I learn a lot from what they say, and picking up like band routines to warm up. And I don't really have arm pain anymore when I throw, which is, I'd like to think, because of all the extra things I do. And I think I just got ready from talking baseball with professionals.
We had an opportunity when it was 2020, it was COVID, and the baseball fields were all shut down. Nobody was allowed to use any parks. At the Minnesota Twin level, these guys were not allowed to use their fields. Parks were still kind of allowed depending on how many people were at the fields. in Cape Coral. So we had Jorge Polanco, Luis Ariz. We had some Minnesota Twins coaches. We had a couple guys from different organizations. A guy named Luis Rengifo was there, Tomas Tellis, and Chris was out there working out with them, where these guys were hitting balls over the fence off a tee. Guys that were driving by watching it would stop, and they were like, well, we know something's going on when somebody's hitting the ball over the fence off a tee. But Chris was shagging, but he was also working out with these guys and learning their workout routine and how important it was to stretch, to get warm, and then after working out, the post game or the post exercise stuff and nutrition. So his body went from a kid that was growing and was maybe expecting to grow because it was in places that really nobody wants. And then he just shot up, stretched out, and now he's 6'2", 195. But it all started with the nutrition that he watched these guys eating and the exercise. And it was probably 2020 is when it turned around for him.
So, Junior, I need to start working out with you because I'm 6'2", 190. I just hit 190, and I don't look anything like you. So, is it whatever you're doing? We need to get together because I want to start looking like you.
Thank you.
Well, you got to shave off about 30 years there, buddy.
Yeah, but I can see the upper body looking strength there, and I need to have a little bit of upper body strength.
I'm going to jump in with a question on the you got me thinking on the conditioning and strength training side. So, pitchers, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, you would train a different way than your first baseman that wants to hit, home runs. But what are some of the things you mentioned? You mentioned resistance bands and things like that. What are some of the conditioning tools that you use? Are you a weights guy, or you're not into the weights? Is there other conditioning practices you use?
Definitely weights, just heavy weights, high reps, get conditioned, and then long distance running 2 times a week. And then when we're not doing that, sprints. I think those are great for conditioning, explosiveness, speed.
And that's for the endurance side of things as well, right? So like as a pitcher, you get thrown into a game and it's it's rep after rep, it's pitch after pitch after pitch. So a pitcher, particularly their leg strength has to be is your momentum, right?
Yeah, for sure.
No,
Brian, he just pitched 85 pitches on Friday, I think it was Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he came out and he was holding his hamstrings, he was holding his sides, he was spent. So when they say a pitcher uses their legs, they're using their legs and their core, and he is starting to feel it now. So, but I want to, if anybody's listening, for a pitcher, he says that he's in the weight room, even though he's doing certain exercises. So for bench pressing, he's not doing it. On the off season, he'll bench press, but he'll fool around with
dumbbell bench press,
in season, press in season, but he doesn't go past 90. And right now he's doing a lot of push-ups, but there are some exercises that should be omitted if you are just a pitcher and throwing like that.
That's what I was kind of thinking. So like, you look at a guy like, I'll go throw a Met at you guys because he's an old current Met, but Justin Verlander. But you look at Verlander and his body, he looks like a normal guy, except for the leg strength, right? You could tell that his legs are a whole different deal, right? So it's like his upper body just looks pretty average, so you could tell that, pitchers don't want to put a lot of stress on the arms and the chest areas because you're using your lower, like you said, your lower and your core body to build the momentum for your pitch speed. So that does answer kind of my question on that, because I kind of figured that's your lower body focused in that way.
Yeah.
Junior, one thing, I'm going to bring you in the fall when we get started because I need a training coach. So you're going to come, you're going to work with the kids on training. All right, get them fit and get them ready, because I think you're well beyond your years on your mind and baseball and what you're doing, and you're preparing your body for the long haul. And how old are you again?
15.
15 years old. and you're pretty much on track to keep. I'm serious. You're on the right track. And a lot of kids that I coach and stuff, they're still younger, 14, 15. They don't understand that. I think they haven't been blessed to have the training and the experience that you've had. But we're definitely going to have you. Now, I can't pay you because the league rule says I'm not allowed to pay you, but we'll come down, I'll take care of you. Maybe I'll cook for you or something. Do a barbecue for you and your dad.
Maybe we'll take that LOD hat in the back, the blue.
There you go.
Baseball. That's a nice one.
I'll get you that one. That's
right.
done. That's done locally. I'll pick one up for you.
No, that's that. So, going into that a little bit more. So like, your conditioning side and all that, but this may be for both of you in some ways. But your experience as a player in the leagues that you've played in. So you grew up playing Babe Ruth baseball, which is, maybe you could explain to us, like, how is it similar to Little League or different from Little League? I don't know. We have all little leagues in our area. And David said you guys are all Babe Ruth down in Southwest Florida.
Part of it. Yeah. We used to be Little League until the whole shift to Babe Ruth. So I think there's probably maybe one team that's still Little League. I don't know what they're at, but yeah, I'm sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I just, that clarifies some things, right? So my area is all Little League. I don't really know. I just view it as youth baseball. So I don't know, but as a official on the Babe Ruth side, can you tell us how Babe Ruth distinguishes itself?
Sure. So Little League is synonymous with youth baseball. I mean,
Right.
even with my position with Babe Ruth, when I talk to people, I'm coaching some Little League stuff. You kind of throw that in there because their head goes right to youth baseball. It's just how it is. It's been around forever. They have the Little League World Series as televised, and parents want their kids to go to the Little League World Series. And I hear it all the time. The difference that I see with Babe Ruth has been around for a while too, and that's for the older kids starting around 13. But for the Cal Ripken side, the difference that we have is, one, there's boundaries. So in Little League, me and Dave could live right across the street from each other. We could be best friends, and he signs up, he'll have to go to one park and I might have to go to another park. And there is no way around that. There is nothing. Where your address is where you need to play. Cal Ripken, Babe Ruth, we understand a little bit more. If you work in Fort Myers and you need your son or daughter to play in Fort Myers, we're going to work around you and we'll get you to a league that you can get to. We understand that parents have to work and they may need someone else to bring them somewhere, and we'll kind of work with that. We don't want to split up friends. Baseball is a very social sport. In my opinion, the most social sport. And I have friends, my best friends, from playing baseball. And that's what Babe Ruth does. We try to eliminate those boundaries. Also, what I really, really like is how they start developing their players on a bigger field. And they go from 46 feet to 50-foot mounds to 70-foot bases. And they prepare for that jump to the 60-foot mound to the 90-foot bases. I've watched kids struggle to make those throws. And some of those kids, they stop playing baseball because they can't make the throw. I also find kids, they put too much strain on their arm trying to make the throws and they might get hurt. So Babe Ruth allows that opportunity to develop yourself and get that strength in there. But it also teaches base running, because now you're allowed to lead off at that level when the bases go to 50. It teaches the pitchers how to watch the runners and pick off. It teaches all new different kinds of defensive tactics. Now we're talking situational baseball, where instead of the runner just static on the bag waiting for the ball to be hit, they're all over the place. So the fielders need to play in different positions. So it really prepares yourself for that different level, because baseball levels start from T-ball, and they have how many different minor league organizations to get you prepared for the big leagues. So, that extra step in between, in my opinion, is the biggest deal. So that's what I like about Babe Ruth. Now, people like their Little League. I have no argument with it. But Babe Ruth, for me, that there is why I stick with it. I think it's for the protection of the kids.
I'll jump on one thing that Chris said. So the boundary thing. So when I was in Fort Myers, we had lived there for a little bit of time. So we were grandfathered in before we moved back to the Cape. and we played in Little League in South. In the South was the league in Fort Myers. So basically, they had kids that literally there was I believe the name of the road is can't think of it right now, but it's by the hospital. So if a kid lived on one side of the street, he played at South. If a kid lived on the other side of the street, he played on Fort Myers Beach. Now, Chris and I understand what it takes to get from Fort Myers Beach on a Saturday morning in a hot day. You're not getting over that bridge. There's only one way in, one way out. So the league is somewhere in close to the beach. So kids had to. It took them forever. So the fight was, well, why can't I just play here? It's right around the block from my house, and that was the argument for a long time. Was that the kids wouldn't play because there's no way they're gonna get to the beach to play a game. And actually, we had I had a party one day at the beach at the park there because we needed a field to just have a team party, and I couldn't. It was nestled in there. I'm like, oh my god, it took us forever just to do that. So yeah, that whole boundary thing. So when we switched to Babe Ruth, it was like, wow, this is amazing. I mean, literally, you can play in your own backyard and not have to worry about loans or leagues. They spoke to each other. Hey, no problem. Like Chris said, it's all about the kids. It's all about developing them. It's not this political thing of just, well, we got to keep you where you're at because we don't care. So the switch to Babe Ruth locally, it really showed parents and players like, wow, these guys really care about development. They care. They don't care where we play as long as that we're playing. And that was the key with that.
Yeah, I actually, there's a rumor out there. I don't know. I've heard it from some Little League coaches that they're going to erase the boundary lines. So
there's been a rumor.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, but I do see your issue though, because like I think where I currently live, my 7-year-old plays Little League, and I think they're the city next to me. So I live, Winter Garden, Windermere. Those two ballparks, Little League fields, are about exactly 8 miles from my house. So it wouldn't really make a difference, but we are, we're zoned for Winter Garden, so I've stayed there. I could see where that would make a difference for people in getting to certain places and getting their kids to the ball fields in time. Because one of the biggest challenges a parent has is getting out of work and then getting their kids to the baseball field. And it's not always an easy thing to do. So anything that eliminates that problem for parents would be a big, a good thing.
Yeah, my parents get mad at me because I want the kid there an hour before the game.
Right.
And our game starts at 6:30. They're like, "Oh, you crazy?" I'm like, "Listen, I need, like Chris said before, I don't want them showing up 5 minutes before. I want them stretch, ready to go, throw, and give us some time to do the lineup and everything, just racing through it." But yeah.
Now, Junior, I'm going to ask you a question about the jersey and the cap you're wearing. Is that your current team?
Yes, it's my summer team, and I have a game that I'm going to right after this.
Oh, perfect. So
we're playing at JetBlue Park.
Oh, nice.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What's the name of your current team?
It's called JSB Elite Scout Team. So it's run by Jeff Smith is the name.
He was a manager in the affiliates for Tampa Bay for the Rays, and now he's the catching coordinator for them.
Oh, very cool.
He's a local guy, and he's a good guy.
So you got a busy schedule for the summer as far as tournaments and those things?
Yeah, every single week.
Got it. I figured as much. So you're in the high school realm now. So everything's got to be, prospect tournaments and all that kind of thing, showcases.
Yeah. Nevertheless, he's still getting shut down. As soon as this summer season's over, he's shut down for a little bit. We're going to recover that arm. And there's no argument from him. He knows.
So how long, that's a great question then. How long does that go? So for a pitcher, I'd imagine this is probably a more important thing for a pitcher. Because your arm is your whole, your arm is your ticket, right? So how long do you shut that arm down for?
Everybody's different. So let me start with that. But for him, we're getting some advice from the strength coaches, the trainers from the Twins organization. They kind of look at him and they look at his body. So he's not the standard 15-year-old kid that you might see out there. A lot of these pitchers might be 6 foot, 150 pounds is what I'm seeing is the average. He's got an extra 50 pounds on these guys. He's also still growing. So depending on where he is in his level of puberty, where his strength is, it all depends on if he's hitting in a growth spurt, because the more you throw and your tendons are stretching, you're more more likely to maybe injure yourself. So we all we take that into account. But I would say the standard would be somewhere around at least 4 weeks of no throwing. Or if you're going to do something, throw a football, we're told. Go play basketball. Keep that shoulder working. Do something athletic.
But not that same pitching motion.
Not the same pitching motion. And then you got to start off slow. So we did it was a throwing routine that we started in the fall, and we would do light 60, throwing from 60 feet, very light. And then we would go to 80 feet the next week. Then we'd go to 100, right? And then 120. And we'd progressively come out slowly, but we'd also throw in our band exercises, our post recovery. There's certain things that we drink after we work out, or actually after he pitches, he'll drink a tart cherry juice. And it's supposed to have these antioxidants that these pitchers have. I mean, these are the levels that he's trying to do for anything. And we honestly don't know what's going to work. You know, I've tried so hard to study and train myself to help him. And these pitching coaches and trainers, they've forgotten more than I'll ever know. And I'm on this every day. And when I tell you, I talk to these guys, and I've taken classes from doctors, and these guys just pick it up right away. So, you know, we just try to go with what he has. I try to teach him to listen to his body, and so far so good. But, you know, everybody is different, and you just got to kind of feel your body. If you feel something's off, then something probably is. And I would say if the kids are listening, stretch, get your arm warm, do some active stretching, get that blood flowing before you start throwing. And watch, you know, especially if you're throwing 85 pitches and your legs are tired, and then you go to shortstop, you know, that's when you lose your legs and you're using all arms. That's where I see the injuries coming, especially if the kids are growing, or if they're working out at the same time and those tendons and ligaments are stretching already. You know, what can happen? So Dave, you see it, you know, these kids, they're holding their elbows or their shoulders hurt, even obliques. So, you know, just listen to their bodies. And it's hard for coaches to really understand what's going on, because it is, it's a lot more scientific than it would have used to be. Right, Brian? I mean, we used to throw 300 pitches and then go out the next day and throw 300 pitches.
Yeah. Nobody thought about any of this stuff. Yeah. And so you're going, so you're out of your high school, the high school season finished. And then you're going to play these summer tournaments and with JSB. And then when do what's the period of time where you kind of take that break with your arm?
Like 2 months about,
so
until
would that be like August, September? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we start the throwing program.
Okay. And then you start the throwing program. So then October, you know, kind of hits the fall season, which is a little bit lighter than the you know, the spring season. So that's interesting. And so, you know, from a calendar perspective, how that works. But it makes a lot of sense. Do you play any other sports in the meantime, or just focus on conditioning?
Right now it's just baseball and then conditioning and lifting.
He just specialized. He did everything. Hockey, football. Oh, wow. He did track and field, where he did shot put and discus, right? He did tennis.
Wow.
Just for the record, worst hockey player in the history of the sport. But he loved it, and it was great exercise. And we were there, and you know, he made his friends, but you never know. So you know, if your boy likes soccer, let him try it. You know, it's great exercise, and it makes him more athletic. I've been told by almost everybody in the organization, of the Twins organization, we don't want baseball players. We want athletes.
Right.
So, you know, let the kids play whatever they want.
At what point did you decide to specialize? Right around this time, 14, 13?
Yeah, about that.
Okay.
Freshman year.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, because you're focused on baseball, and you can do the other athletic side of things through just basic training, right?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you play the other sport for the conditioning, but if you're doing the conditioning on your own, then, you know, you're kind of taking care of that already. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I agree with you. Like if kids like it, go for it, play whatever, and then figure out what you like.
I'll attest to one thing, what Chris has been saying about what he's done with Junior with his arm. So basically, I have guys that played Major League Baseball, and they tell me all the time, hey, David, you guys in Florida play September to May to June. Your kids are younger. Don't do anything in the summer. Shut them down. Go do family stuff. Forget about the travel stuff, travel baseball. Come back in the fall again. You're going to pick up a baseball. I guarantee you they're going to be better off than if you just play all year round. So I've never done the travel stuff with my boys. And Christopher's my oldest, his name is Christopher too. He would basically get shut down and then come in the fall. He's already throwing seeds when all the other kids are like, as he warmed up, all the other kids are struggling. They're like, my God, why is his arm stronger? Well, he hasn't done nothing all year long or summer long. We've gone traveling. We've done vacation. We didn't pick up a baseball. And I've done the same thing with Matthew. I think this summer will be the first time Matthew's trying out for a travel team, only because he's already at the cusp of going to high school. So, we're going to try it out, but he's a catcher. So even though he comes back as well, I don't think I've ever heard of a catcher have Tommy John surgery. But, I mean, it's not probably the talk is not as hard as what a pitcher goes through. But now will be the first time that he's going to now get into the travel and get ready for high school. But it's true. And it means a lot. It makes a difference when the kid can rest his arm, because it just gives you longevity in the arm. Because you've seen, I know Chris Jr., you've probably seen your friends who played travel ball over the years, like they may not just be POs. They're playing every position. They're playing how many games in a weekend do you play in travel ball? I mean, what's the average?
This one was 5.
5 games. And I've heard of kids, and Chris, you'll be surprised. There were kids that played in our league in Pelican that they pitched in travel ball and their arms are dead because they threw 150 pitches in 2 days.
Yep. And they're coming back and pitching in your league too.
But then the coaches, and then the coaches are saying, well, we needed to win. It's not about winning. The kid's 11, 12 years old. You're going to kill him before he gets to 14, and he's never going to be able to go beyond that because you only cared about your trophy.
I think that's a good point about, you can't ruin these pitchers for sure. If you're gonna overdo it with the number of games, you're gonna pay the consequences. But yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about the fact that if you're playing 2 leagues at one time, or you're playing on a travel team and a Babe Ruth team or a Little League team, and they don't count the number of pitches that you gave on your tournament on the weekend when you're coming into Little League and throwing that weekend. So,
well, a good coach should, right? A good coach should pick up.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But they would say like the rules are this and this. And,
The rules don't apply. If a coach wanted to throw his kid 85 pitches on a Wednesday, he threw 95 pitches, let's say, on a Sunday. He's just thinking about his rec ball team wanting to win.
Right.
Where in reality, we need to think about, okay, wait a minute, this kid shouldn't be throwing for another week or so. Like you need, and it's hard too, Chris, because if in rec ball, they're playing multiple positions, right? We got 12 kids roster, right? You need to put them in someplace else. We don't have POs in Little League. Unless you have a 15, 20 man roster, which you can't have that. Right. Maybe they need to do that. Maybe Chris, we'll carry 15, 20 kids on a Babe Ruth team, and then we'll be fine.
I don't know if that's ever going to happen. And I wanted to say, when I first met David, he did show up at the field and he had the team. And if I remember, it was Southwest Florida Comets, right? Was it the Comets?
For the Stars or for the
Stars?
The Stars. Stars was Cal Ripken, yeah.
Yep. And he had a good team. And he would pitch one player every you would change your pitcher out every inning. Mm-hmm. And the coaches that we had, they would play their star pitcher or who they thought their star pitcher was for the whole game. It didn't matter. They did not want to go to the bullpen no matter what. And they would just keep playing this kid. And if they had an opportunity to play on enough 2 days rest, they would play him again. So that's where I started changing some rules around in that league at the time, where I took away trophies for first place because I wanted kids to play, not just pitching, but to play the outfield, play the infield, get them an opportunity. Forget about winning this whole thing just for the trophy. The kid that's on the bench and only gets to play an inning and gets one at bat, I didn't want that anymore. So I took away the trophies. And when I tell you, there was one kid that I think of in particular, and I really, great family. Dad was a high-ranking official in law enforcement. really, really good kid. And the poor guy just never had an opportunity like everybody else. He just was inexperienced, and I was trying to get him experience. So I made this rule, going from what David was doing and taking away the trophies. So they ended up winning their division and they got first place. And typically they would get this big trophy for first place, but then we'd have playoffs. They lost it in the playoffs. So now they got like a little medal for first place and trophies for the playoffs. They got this big, whoever won the playoffs got a big trophy. Well, Dad came up and I remember him looking at me, and this was a guy that I would have beers with. He was quivering. His lip was quivering when he was trying to talk. He was so upset that his son didn't get the trophy that everybody else did, that he couldn't even look at me without shaking. He was so upset with me. I couldn't even believe it. So that's the kind of beatings I would take. I mean, it was upsetting, but I let it go for the kid. You know, I did what I thought was right for his son, but he didn't see it that way. He wanted the trophy. So this is the difficulties that some of these volunteers will encounter, whether it's Babe Ruth, Cal Ripken, Little League. You know, nobody really understands. And if anybody's out there listening, there's probably a reason why somebody's doing something. Maybe just ask them first. And there's probably some sort of excuse. There's probably good thinking behind it. Something might have happened and it didn't work and things need to change. But in this case, it was for the kids. It worked. I know it worked, but you can't make everybody happy. But just maybe give the volunteers a little bit of slack.
Yeah.
You know?
I think being those positions that you've taken on, I think and David, I think's done some of these things as well. They can be very thankless. You're trying to do, you know, you're taking a lot of time out of your own schedule, where you could be doing something else, to do that. I mean, even David, from a coaching perspective, you don't need to be coaching, and no one's writing you a check.
Yep.
But you know, you're doing it because you want to do the right thing for the kids and for the organization and keep baseball going and all that.
And don't forget, no one else is doing it.
And that's the other point.
Yep.
People don't want to do it. You know, they'd rather be the one complaining,
yep,
and the one giving you the grief than the one that actually has to be responsible for it. So yeah, I mean, kudos to you guys, to you and all those volunteers out there that
right.
put in the hours.
Well, there's a lot of good parents, and
yeah,
I would say the majority of them are, but there are handfuls. I've gotten scorebooks thrown at me. I've lost friends because I didn't want 13-year-olds to pitch the entire game, so we had an opportunity to let 12 and 11-year-olds pitch. I mean, I can keep going on, and I think to myself, like, why am I doing this? But I watch how the kids progress and how kids that normally wouldn't play are playing. So that's how I justify it.
You know, Chris, he just said what I just thought is why we do it, right? One is for the love of the game. We grew up loving it. You know, we grew up in a different era where we really truly loved the game. We watched it. We just wanted to just be in the mix of it, and the fact that Chris gets to be in the mix of it on the level he's at, I mean, that's something I'm sure he's enjoying. The fact that I got to be credentialed Major League Baseball, go to spring training, be in the midst of it that way, not as a player, but just as someone that's involved in it, was a dream come true. And why do I do the coaching? I'm going to just throw this in, is prime example. First time going to the big field, I grabbed a team in the fall, and it's called the Eric Metzer League in the Cape Coral. And I had most of the kids never played in the big field. And they came from 50-70 because they played Cal Ripken, came to the big field, and we trained. We had the Hurricanes, so we couldn't play in the fall league, but we trained. I wanted to make sure they were prepared for spring. And we ended up going to the championship this year. We didn't win it, and the kids were down. I said, whoa, why are you down? You guys went from not playing in the big field to now every one of you, all 11, well, one of my kids got hurt because of being on the big field. He overthrowing, and, you know, he had to, but he still played in the big field. I said 12 of you went from not playing in the big field to now playing in the big field and being successful. You didn't win a championship. Hey, that's fine. It is what it is. You developed. You've gotten better. So now you can walk in any big field tomorrow and know that you belong. That's victory. Because the championships you'll forget about, but the development you won't. The development will continue to go as long as you continue to get better, or even just practice. I had a kid that hadn't played on the big field for 2 years, on a field for 2 years, wanted to play with his brother. And that kid, I mean, he was giving me 110% every day. and I move kids around. So he plays second, he played outfield, he played whatever, and he made plays at second base. When he would walk home, leave the game, and his mom would see him with a smile. Why? Because he got to play second base on a big field and made a play and felt like now he was part of the team.
Yeah.
So I think the reason why the real coaches coach is because we want to see the development from the beginning of the season to the end. And there might not be kids that develop. Some kids may need more work, but you still see a gradual development because we care enough to give the kids that opportunity. I think, Chris and I are on the same boat with that. And I think this is why his son is in the position he's in, because he sees that love and he's kind of like growing from that love as well. My son loves the game, but he loves fishing more than anything else. So, it kills me a little bit. I try to go fish him. I can't catch a fish, so I just watch him. So anyway.
That's all right, man. That's all right. So I have a question. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit to your apparel company. And I'm wearing a t-shirt right now that belongs to your, that comes from Caribbean Way Apparel, right? Yeah. And it's really cool. I wore it. It's perfect for Memorial Day today. But because I got the USA pitchers one. Is that a silhouette of you pitching, by the way?
No, that's a righty.
No, it's a righty. Yeah. So yeah, you should make one with you on it, maybe. But so tell us about where'd you come up with the idea? I see your dad's got a hat and a shirt on right now. Some really cool stuff that you guys put together. So tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, thank you. So first, we started off on a vacation in St. John.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it wasn't supposed to be anything about baseball. We were just going snorkeling, did some other stuff that was pretty cool. But we drove by, it was just a sand pit. And apparently it was a baseball field that got destroyed by a hurricane. I forget which one.
Yeah.
But we were going through and I just noticed how no other countries really have baseball. And I just thought that was crazy for someone who would love the game to not be able to play because they don't have equipment or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I started thinking of ideas on how to get equipment over there or how to get baseball fields over there or just how to spread the game. And I started off and I thought of an idea called the Caribbean Way and then turned it into some clothes, hats, accessories, stuff like that. And donated some of the profits, which we don't really have profits yet, but we're still donating.
It's okay.
Hopefully we'll break even sometime. But we just donated a couple boxes of equipment to Jamaica, the Dominican, and next it's going to be Venezuela. So
the Dominican is packed up. It hasn't shipped out yet, but it's going out this week. The first was the Bahamas. So when it started it was the Bahama trip I was telling you about, Brian, where I brought Luis Ramirez out there.
Yep.
And when I tell you the plot of land they had on this blue background, with the waves crashing against it, it was like no baseball field we're going to see over here where we are. Yeah. But the grass was brown. The fence was kind of mangled. They had to go through, I think it was Hurricane Dorian that messed them up, then COVID. But they can't go to a store and go buy cleats or a glove like we do. And Chris was like, well, what if we did this? And that's kind of where he must have had something on his mind because I didn't know what he was thinking about from there. And it kind of came together after the Bahamas to try to get more equipment. And because it was in that time frame and he was like, how about we do this? And he thought about it for probably a week. And one day he came out, he says, I got it. The Caribbean Way. We're going to ship equipment out the Caribbean way, and try to, it went from there. So, his heart's in the right place. But he's got dad packing up boxes.
So Junior, what you have some great styles and stuff. What came into play? What did you see in the Caribbean that made you decide on the different styles that you have for the shirts and everything?
I just noticed how they were so passionate about what they do. Their parties that they throw, they're crazy. And I noticed that in the World Baseball Classic probably the most.
They're passionate, not crazy. Let's go with passionate.
And I just noticed how passionate they were about everything they do. And I figured they'd want to show off what they are on a t-shirt. So the first one I came up with was for the Dominicans, and it just says "Que lo que," which means "What's up." And that one got a few laughs, and everyone seems to like it.
That's cool. I think you have one. I think that my son has. You sent to him has. Was it sleep, baseball, fishing?
Yeah,
that's perfect. That's perfect. I'm going to take. I haven't had a chance, but I'm going to take that and market it. I have a bunch of kids here that play baseball, and all they do is fish. So hopefully the parents, I'm going to say you have to buy the shirt.
That's the most popular one out of all of them. That's the most popular. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I also understand my other David brought this to my attention, but you also do some fundraising with some local youth leagues.
Yeah.
And tell us a little about that.
So the first
Sunshine
one,
Kids.
Yeah. So one of them was the Sunshine Kids for a kid named Aiden Pickett, and he got diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know him too well. And when I was growing up at like 8, he was a little younger than me, but he got diagnosed with cancer. Leukemia. Yeah. And we started a home run derby for him. And there was like a helicopter that went out and dropped like some baseballs on the field. And he just got to run around and play baseball like he never really got to in the hospital. And I thought that was pretty cool.
We hooked up with the Sunshine Kids Foundation because the parents that we became friends with, he loved baseball. He was I think he was 4 or 5 when he was first diagnosed, and he battled and it got to a point where they had it beat, and he signed up for baseball again. And then his first practice got rained out. Then I think it was like his second practice came in, he wasn't feeling good, and he found that it relapsed. Mm-hmm. So we talked to David on this one. Chris came up with an idea. It's like, Dad, you can do it. Why don't you name the field after him? And I'm thinking, oh man, I don't know if I can do that. I can't just start naming things. But we were able to maneuver some stuff with the city, and they accepted it, and we named it the Aiden Pickett League. So from there, we wanted to fundraise for the parents. We couldn't imagine what they were going through. They did not accept any donations. They said instead go to the Sunshine Kids Foundations, and they help kids and parents that are going through cancer get through it, whatever they need to do. And we did a hit-a-thon, and we had, it was a full day of hitting, just nonstop hitting. And we had events, and people were just laughing and smiling, and the Pickets were there, and we raised over $10,000, and we cut a check to the Sunshine Kids for everything. And, it was a great event. Unfortunately, Aiden's not with us anymore, but we were able to give him some time. We had him run around. We had the Minnesota Twins come out for it. David was there taking pictures.
Yeah.
We had coaches and players from the Minnesota Twins out in the field. We had Calusa Middle School, the art group, make 2 banners. One was Angels, kids that are no longer with us, and the Warriors, the kids that are fighting. And the kids that were going through it, they got to play. We call it rag ball. So we took a pair of socks and wrapped it up in an ace bandage, but they were all gold, in honor of fighting cancer. And they ran around and played rag ball. And if the kids weren't with us, they had a sibling or a proxy there to play for them. And then all the kids would come in, and they would put their hand in like finger paint, and they would put their handprint on the posters. So we had our posters with all the handprints of all the kids going through it, or we lost their family, as kind of like we're all in this together. So that's kind of what we did. I mean, it's much bigger than the $10,000 or giving Aiden an opportunity to play with the Twins. I saw the community of Cape Coral really come together. I don't ask anybody for anything, but if there's something out there, I'll get phone calls. And David was the first. What can I do? Please. I mean, beg me enough to where I'm like, dude, I don't know. You're doing so much. You got to give me something to do. It's fantastic, but the community here, it's become a family, and they really come together when they're needed. I'm really proud of where I live and the people that I work with. you know, it's a great thing. So sometimes some events are more difficult than others. I could tell you, as I'm getting older, some are weighing on me a little more, but the outcome of what we're trying to do really helps, and it did raise awareness, and we did get some publicity from it, where the Sunshine Kids were able to make a little bit of money and hopefully help some kids. So,
Well,
yeah, Brian, you had to be at that event when they named the field and he was running around. You know, you thought, you know, we don't know, you know, what these kids are going through, right? What they're feeling, but just to see him running around the field and being happy for that time, and the parents watching that, it was a special day. It was a special day. And Chris Jr., keep doing what you're doing. You know, keep reaching these kids, even if you make it to the majors. Don't keep, you know, that's the hope and plan. You know, you reach that level and you be on that path, but just keep giving back, because what players, big guys don't understand. Well, some of them don't, some of them do. Is that that little bit that you give back means a lot, because you're changing one kid's life. You may not change all 100 of them. You change one kid's life, now he can change another kid's life. So keep going the path you're going, and we'll help blast your apparel. We got our apparel too, but you know, yours looks. This is more like, you know, it is what it is, but yours is a little more sweeter. I'll say that. You know, I still want to sell my t-shirts, but yours sweeter. So I like them. Cool.
Well, we want to make sure we get that stuff out there for you for sure. And I mean, I don't know I don't have more baseball questions after that story. I mean, it's like, you know, that's a whole different level of importance. But I will say, I'll look at it this way. It's cool that baseball was able to encapture all of that, to aid these families and these kids. And then also what you're doing on the Caribbean side and getting equipment and packages out to people. I think it's great. I mean, you're doing, like David said, you're doing like big league work, charity work as a high school ball player. So, but it sounds like you had some good mentoring with all these big leaguers that you've encountered with the Twins and that. So you've had a unique experience, I think, in the game and what it means to be a player at a big level. So keep doing that. That's like David said, keep it up, because those are incredible things.
And my point on senior is that sometimes we get burnt out, right? For senior, sometimes we get burnt out. Sometimes people want to test us to the point where, oh my God, why am I doing this? This is not paying my bills. This is not helping me to survive in this world. But in reality, when we think about why we're doing it for the kids. We're doing it for the next generation and preparing them and not only become baseball players, just become men or women, in this world and be able to conquer this world. So, keep doing what you're doing, because, I look up to you. I don't know, you might be younger than me, but I look up to you because, I think that every person should have how you say that? A stick in the game, how you say it, but you should have a part in it all. I think all of us should do something. And what you're doing is leading the way for the rest of us. Because I see how you do stuff and how you're out there, promoting Babe Ruth, but just changing lives in different countries. And I may not get on a plane like you do on a boat because I don't travel like that. But what you're doing is helping the rest of us to do it here. So, I really appreciate you for everything you're doing and helping Junior, grow his business and his side thing there and really growing it up. So, I appreciate you as well for what you're doing in baseball.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm not eloquent with my words, but you know what my point is.
Absolutely. Well, it's a great baseball story all the way around. And I think, Chris Jr., we want to make sure you're 15. So are you going into your sophomore year?
I'll be going in my junior year.
Junior year, okay. So we're gonna have to keep track of things and how it's going down there for you. Hopefully, we'll be getting we'll be seeing you pitch at the next level before too long. So we're excited to see that and all that you guys are doing for the game of baseball. So
appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So just thanking our sponsors real quick, right, David?
Go
ahead.
You take the lead. Go ahead.
I'm gonna let you do it. I'm gonna plug I'll plug our merch shop. This is we plug Caribbean Way. We also have David and I are displaying some of our styles as well. Go check those out.
And just want to say thank you to Easy Mortgage and to DC3 Bat Company for sponsoring the podcast. DC3 Bat Company is there you go. Cotton Candy baseball glove. We didn't touch on that, but that's
thank you, Dalton.
The official DC3 cotton candy baseball glove that's supposed to smell like cotton candy. But it doesn't play like a circus glove. It actually, real quick plug on that, Junior. How does that glove fit?
Great. I love it. It's really well made. I admit it. I was a little skeptical, but it's not something I would wear or use. but I'm talking about the pinkish colors.
Oh yeah.
But the leather is it's spot on. It really is.
I would agree with that. I ordered our Legends on Deck version of it, and I need to break it in a little bit better. You probably throwing a lot more than I am, and catching a lot more than I am, but it's quality stuff.
It sure is. Yeah.
So there you go. DC3 Bat Company, our sponsor, and I just want to thank everybody for coming on the show today. Chris Sr, Jr, thank you for being here. Brian, once again, my partner. We're on episode 38, moving along. Our goal is 100. It's probably going to get there in no time, but 100 and beyond. But that's kind of our milestone right now.
Our milestone is, we're getting close to 50. So we're going to say that 50 is already going to happen. So 100 would be the next milestone.
There you go. Well, thank you guys for being on the show today. Appreciate it. And for our followers and our listeners, next one will be out soon. Follow along. Thank you.